Very good evening, students. Very good evening, everyone. Okay, very good evening, Shubhi. Please confirm about the voice and the video, and I'll start this session then. Please confirm about the voice and the video. I hope everything is fine. Okay. Thank you, Shubhi, for clarifying that. On that note, I am starting this class now. So, first of all, I welcome each one of you to my YouTube session on the Indian Contract Act 1872. Let's start with my brief introduction first. My name is Sandeep Khatri. I have done my law from University of Mumbai and my LLM from Jindal Global Law School. By profession, I am a teacher and I am teaching law for more than 5 years now. My areas of specializations are the constitutional law, criminal law, commercial law, family law, and law of torts. Here is the link of my profile, students, on Unacademy. So please do follow that to get all the updates about my special classes and my plus courses. I have also shared the link of my Telegram channel where you can connect with me and ask questions related to your judicial preparation. At last, I have mentioned my code, that is KHATRILIVE, which is basically my surname KHATRI and live LIVE, which you can use to get free access to get free access of all the special classes available on Unacademy app, and also to get 10% discount for all the plus courses. So this was about me. Now I request everyone, please be attentive, and this is going to be an interactive session. So the moment you feel you're not clear with anything, feel free to ask questions in the comments. Very good evening, everyone. Kajal, Sapna. Thank you, Kajal, for clarifying that. And everyone, those of you who have just joined, very good evening. So students, this is our 3 golden formulas for the introduction of Indian Contract Act, and we are already done with this. So today I'm going to start a new topic, and that is quasi contracts. Okay. So before going into the details of the contract, let's quickly revise this formula, and then I'll jump to the concept of quasi contracts. And after that, I'm going to we are also going to solve some of the MCQs related to that. Okay. So the formulas are, students, the whole story of the contract start with the term proposal, which has been defined in section 2A, and after that there is going to be acceptance, which makes it a promise, followed by promise plus consideration equals to an agreement. The term acceptance has been defined, and acceptance and promise, both the terms has been defined under section 2B. The term consideration has been defined in 2D, and the agreement is in section 2E. And then agreement plus enforceable by law, which is basically your section number 10, that finalize the contract, which is defined under section 2H. So this was our formation of the contract. And on that note, students, let's start a new topic with the help of whiteboard. So any questions, students, before starting the quasi contract, chapter number 5? And if it's all clear, quickly give me a thumbs up. I'll straight away start the session. Waiting for your confirmation, students. Okay, thank you very much, Sapna. On that note, I'm starting this chapter number 5, the concept of quasi contract, with the help of a very simple example. Okay, so suppose, students, there are 2 parties, Mr. A and Mr. B, and there is a contract between them. There is a contract between these parties, and one of the party, so let's assume Mr. B, committed breach of contract. Now what Mr. A will do? Mr. A will do file a suit against Mr. B for what? for damages. Right? So if there is a contract between two parties and one of the party committed breach of contract, then the another party will file a suit on that party and claim for damages. Now the thing is, students, first question, why did we allow this suit? Because there was contract. Because there was contract and there was breach of contract, which means the cause of action. If you go into the details of this example, so why did Mr. A filed a suit? Because Mr. A and Mr. B had a contract. So there was a right that has been conferred by this contract to Mr. A, and that right has been violated by that breach, and that is why Mr. A filed a suit. Okay, so this was a simple example that how contract law works. Now coming to the next thing, what if, students, what if Mr. A help out Mr. B? I'm using the word helping out. Okay, Mr. B, which means when I use this term helping out, this concludes one thing, that there is no such contract. There is no contract. And if there is no contract, which means later on, if Mr. B, if Mr. A wants that money back from Mr. B, can Mr. A claim that? Can he claim that at the later stage? And the answer is, students, no. Why not? The reasons are very, very simple. Because there was no contract, and if there was no contract, there was no right. Then in that case, the Indian Contract Act will not help him out. I hope everyone is clear with these two examples. Very good evening, Amit. Kajal, don't worry, I have noted that down. I'll come up with that. Okay. Okay. So thank you for the thumbs ups. Now I am moving forward, students. When you will read the heading, I hope both the examples are clear. This is basically, students who have just joined, this is basically the introduction of chapter number 5. Okay. Now, in these two examples, students, there is one thing that is common, and that is here Mr. A chooses to have a contract with Mr. B, which means who is going to be the promisor? Who is going to be the promisee? Who is going to give the proposal to whom? This is something which is decided by the parties. What are going to be the rights and the duties of the contract? That is again something which is, which is going to be revealed by the parties itself. The parties are going to decide what are going to be the rights, what are going to be the duties, who is going to be the another party. So everything is decided by the party itself. Now coming to the next concept, in continuation with the same examples, let's take another example. Suppose there is one F, father and the mother, and they have a child C. Okay. Now, they do have a house, and this is, suppose, the house of their neighbors. This is the house of their neighbors. So I gave them the name Mr. N. Now, suppose Mr. F and M died in a car accident, and there is no one to look out at Mr. C. In that scenario, Mr. N came forward and he becomes the de facto guardian, which means Mr. N at the age of 10 years, now he started taking care of Mr. C. Taking care here means all the expenses of his food, shelter, clothes, his education, health education, everything has been done by Mr. N. Now, suppose from 10 years onwards till the moment he reached 18 years, Mr. N help him out, the child C. Now, let's assume the amount spent by Mr. N is 10 lakh rupees. Now, question number one. Whether Mr. N can claim that amount from Mr. C. अब जो सी के साथ है, क्या वो क्लेम कर सकता है वो अमाउंट? आंसर इन द कमेंट्स स्टूडेंट्स, प्लीज आंसर इन द कमेंट्स. Yes. Whether Mr. N can claim 10 lakh rupees from C. Okay. Sapna is saying no. What about others? Students, please do participate. Then only I can help you out. Yes. What about others? So students, in general, the answer is no, because there is no such contract. But when you will apply the concept of quasi contracts, yes, then as per to then section 68, C may be liable. Now, what are the conditions which needs to be satisfied under section 68? So let's discuss all the conditions one by one. Under section 68, what are the conditions? Claim for necessaries supplied to person incapable of contracting or of his account. One more thing, students, before entering to, what is the major difference between contract and quasi contracts? Quasi contracts made by law, and this contract is made by parties. This is the major difference. So here when you say section 68, which deals with quasi contract, this is a contract which is made by law. And under section 68, what are the conditions? If a person incapable of entering into a contract, so in my previous example there was a minor, and as per to section 11, a minor cannot enter into a contract. But if the contract is for his benefit, that is one of the exceptions of section number 11. Continue. If a person incapable of entering into a contract, or any one whom he is legally bound to support is supplied by another person with necessaries. Matlab, he got necessaries. And necessaries here means, again, the food, shelter, clothes, okay, education and health. The basic necessities. Continue. Suited to his condition in life, the person who has furnished all these necessaries, in our example, Mr. N. Okay, the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to be reimbursed. Now students, always do remember, now the question is, once this minor becomes major, whether this person is personally liable. Now there are two questions: whether this person is personally liable. Now what is personally liable? Which means once he got 18, now he have to give him the money anyhow, whether he is doing a job or a business. Or second one is only his property is liable. So in that case, students, if Mr. N help out minor with necessities for 8 years, as per to our example, now this minor, his property is going to be liable for Mr. N for the same amount. Why? Because this is the case of quasi contract, and as per to the sake of justice as well, this has to be required. So which means there was no contract between the parties, but it will be considered as a quasi contract under section 68. Anything which you are not clear with? Yes, from section number 68. After that, I will jump to some of the MCQs, students, related to quasi contracts. If it's clear, quickly give me a thumbs up. I'll move to the MCQ parts. Okay, thank you, Kajal, for confirming that. On that note, I'm jumping to the questions part, students. Here comes the first question. The Indian Contract Act, certain relations resembling with contracts are provided under. So first understand the question. Certain relations resembling which means there is no relationship of contract, but it resemble with the contracts. And this is the difference between contract and quasi contracts. I'm repeating myself. Certain relations resembling with the contract, which means there is no contract, but it resembles with the contract. And this is what quasi contract is. And this is under chapter Sapna and Kajal. Correct answer, this is chapter number 5, which is basically talks about quasi contracts. Neha, correct answer, top 3 students. Next one, the judicial basis of quasi contractual obligations can be explained through the principle of. The judicial basis of quasi contractual obligation can be explained through the principle of. What is the principle behind, or you can say what is the doctrine behind the concept of quasi contracts? First one to answer correctly, Kajal, followed by Amit. And yes, C is the correct answer, students. This is the concept of unjust enrichment. Sapna, correct answer. The concept of unjust enrichment. There should not be any person who should take benefit out of someone's, profits. No one is allowed to enrich himself at the expense of other. The same exact line which I have used for the previous question. This principle is known as. First one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Kajal. And yes, B is the correct answer, students. No one is allowed to enrich himself at the expense of another, and that the concept is of quasi contract. Quasi contractual obligations are based on the theory propounded by whom? Who propounded this theory of quasi contract? Okay, I guess no one is aware with this one. Kajal is saying C, Anson. No, Anson is not the correct answer. Sapna, Lord Sumner is also not the correct answer. Yes, Amit, correct answer is Lord Mansfield. Students, please note this down. This question has been asked in your exams, several times in your PT examination. So the answer is Lord Mansfield. Okay. Kind of a factual question, but this is again something which is important. A contract implied by law is known as. Usually, a contract is implied by the parties. But when a contract is implied by law, it is known as. First one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Amit and Kajal. Everyone's answer is correct, student. This is a case of quasi-contract. Always do remember when a contract is implied by law. So you should focus on this term, implied by law, not on this term, implied. This is your section number 9, implied and expressed, and contingent contract is defined under section 31. Which is again, contingent contract is also something which is implied by the parties, implied or expressed by the parties. Which of the following sections of Indian contract provides for the liability for necessary supplied to persons incompetent to contract? Sapna, Amit, Kajal, correct answers. And the answer is, students, section number 68. Can a minor is supplied with necessaries of life? The supplier cannot recover the price, can recover the price, can recover the price from the property of minor, can file a criminal case. Choose the most appropriate option. And yes, students, C is the correct answer. Sapna, Kajal, and Amit, correct answer. A minor having lost his parents is maintained by his neighbor, whether the neighbor can seek recovery of expenses. Choose the most appropriate option again. The question remains the same, but it is always, the methods, how they are asking the question. Sapna, first one to answer correctly. Kajal, correct answer. And the answer is, students, A, that yes, the answer is yes, but only in certain conditions. And that condition is obviously the property. A supplies B, a lunatic, with necessaries suitable to his conditions in his life, whether A is entitled for reimbursement from the property of B. Okay, there is a kind of confusion on this one. Sapna has answered B. Kajal and Amit, the correct answer here is C. Kajal and Amit, correct answer. Sapna, please do correct your answer. It is not related to the value of property, is more than one. Okay, so the answer is yes. A person enjoying the benefits of a lawful non-gratuitous act of another. Choose the most appropriate option here. नेहा, आप हिंदी में भी क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हैं. Okay, first one to answer correctly, Sapna, followed by Amit. And yes, students, A is the correct answer. A person enjoying the benefits of a lawful, non-gratuitous act of another is liable to compensate that another. This is the most appropriate answer. Sapna, Amit, and Kajal, correct answer. Consider the following statements. If a person who finds goods belonging to another takes them into his custody, then he can pledge the goods, can gift the goods, is subject to the same responsibility as bailey. Of the above statement, which one is correct? Okay. Top three students to answer correctly. Sapna, followed by Kajal and Amit. And yes, C is the correct answer, students. That is, 3 alone is correct, which means is subject to the same responsibility as bailey. If someone has found the goods, that person does not become the owner, so he cannot pledge them, he cannot gift them. Okay. I hope everyone do know the meaning of the gift. Pledge means when you put that goods as a security and take loan on that, and pledge is something which is related to movable property, and that is why goods are there. Okay, if the same concept of pledge is done by with the help of immovable property, it would be called as mortgage. Section 70 of the Indian Contract Act does not apply in case of, this is first one is in the case of government, second in the case of minor, third is Parda Nashin lady, and the last one is public corporation. These all are your previous year questions only. Okay, all the questions which we have done today, all are your previous year questions from different judicial examinations. Kajal, please do correct your answer. The correct answer here is B, that is minor. Amit, correct answer. So section 70 does not apply in the case of minor. A tradesman leaves his goods at B's house by mistake. B uses the goods as his own. Then choose the most appropriate option. And top 3 students to answer correctly, Sapna, Kajal and Amit, correct answer students. B is bound to pay to A. X, a trader, leaves goods at Y's house by mistake. If Y uses the goods, then which of the following is correct when X demands the price of goods and Y refuses to pay? Choose the most appropriate answer. The same question, but the again they're just making some new situations. The concept will remain the same. Sapna, Kajal and Amit, correct answer, that is B. In Contract Act, the responsibility of finder of goods is provided under section. And the correct answer is Sapna. D is the correct answer. Kajal, correct answer, section 71. D is the correct answer. Last question, students. Which of the following is not a quasi-contract? Out of all these, which one is not a quasi-contract? First one to answer correctly, Kajal. Okay, sorry. First one to answer correctly, Sapna. After that, Kajal and Amit. And yes, novation is the correct answer, students. Novation is not a quasi-contract. This will be treated as a valid contract only. Okay, but all of these are going to be treated as quasi-contract. Yes, anything related to this chapter which you are not clear with, that is chapter number 5, quasi-contracts. So most of the questions which are going to be, all the previous questions were from section 68 or section number 70 or 71. So these are the most important section numbers. Done, students? On that note, this is the link of my profile, my Telegram channel, and this is my code KHATRILIVE. Students, I have an important announcements to make, two important announcements. Tomorrow also I'm taking a special class at 5 p.m. on Unacademy, where we are going to talk about the strategy session on MP Judicial Services examination. Also tomorrow is Saturday, but I am again taking a class on YouTube as well. Okay, at the same time. Okay. And Kajal, I have already noted your question, so I will come up with a case law on that section as well. Okay, section number 28. Okay, Kajal. So just give me some more time, and I'll arrange that case law. Okay, so let's crack PCS J with Unacademy, compete with thousands of aspirants, and stand out from the crowd. You will get all the subjects on Unacademy, students. These are some special class features. This is the pricing plan and the plus subscription. And once you're a subscriber, you can attend all these classes. This is the YouTube and the Telegram channel of Unacademy. And on that note, that's it from my end. Like, share, and subscribe. And yes, it's time to say peace.